Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Wright. I'm a landscape photographer working out of Granada, Spain. Now this week I went to a location quite near to Granada called the Gorafe Desert, and it's the most incredible location ever. It's somewhat like the Grand Canyon. It's an enormous ancient inland sea that's been drained thousands of years ago, leaving basically the seabed. We had incredible adventures. We took the jeep down into the canyon, did a 30-mile trip, 30-kilometer trip through the ravines. Amazing. I didn't think we were ever going to see the top again at one stage. The roads down there are incredibly bad, and the Jeep did incredibly well to bring us out in one piece. But that's not what this video is about. What the video is about is creating panoramics. So what do we understand by a panoramic? Well, it's a picture, often the ratio of around 3 to 1. So we've got a long, thin picture, and we create these pictures. You can't do this easily just with a wide-angle lens. So what we need to do is to create multiple shots across the width of a panorama. Now, we're on location. Let's get into the setting up of the camera and the taking of the shots, and then after that we'll move on to back in the studio, how we create the panorama. Okay, let's get into it. Okay guys, here we are in the Gorafe Desert, and what we're going to do is shoot a panorama. So we've got the Canon set up, we've got a 70 to 200mm lens on the camera, and what we're going to do is to shoot this vista that I'm looking at here, and we're going to shoot it in 2 rows of 12 frames approximately. Okay, and the reason we're going to do this is because, one, we've got a long lens and we can't fit the whole picture into a long lens. And secondly, because we want to overlap the pictures, each frame, so that we're able to match them effectively in software. Okay, so let's have a look at the kit. We've got the Canon camera, the long lens, we've got an Acrotech panoramic head. So what's so good about the Acrotech panoramic head is it's calibrated, and we set it level using an Acrotech leveling base, so we can set the head exactly level, and I'll just demonstrate that now. So we turn this screw and we wobble it around a bit, and we're exactly level now. We've got 2 spirit level. We wobble it about a bit, and now we've got the head exactly level. So we know now that the camera is also exactly level, and that's important because we want the main thrust of this, i.e. the shot of the mountains, to be exactly level. Right, so I've got the camera set up, it's exactly level. I'm now going to take the first shot. I'm going to advance the camera to a point 3/4 across that first shot, so that I've got 25 to 30% overlap on the next shot. Okay, and we're going to do that for as many times as it takes to get to the far right hand side of the mountain. Now I'm calculating 12 shots in my head. Right, so let's get that done. And don't get in the frame. Okay, let me just adjust. Okay, that's 1. That's 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we've got our 13 shots across the mountain. So what we've got effectively is one very long, narrow strip. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to tilt the camera slightly down, leaving my overlap. Okay, and now I'm going to get much more of the canyon in the shot, and I'm going to go back. I know where I am. I'm at the right hand end. I'm going to go back and do 13 shots again. Okay, so just get the focus. Okay, that's 1, 12, 13. Perfect, so we've now got our 2 sets of 13 shots. We've got enough to make this panorama work. I think we've had perfect conditions for it, and back to the studio. Okay, here we are in Affinity Photo, and we're going to make a new panorama. So we choose New Panorama. Now I'm going to add the pictures here, and open these pictures, and we'll go to Stitch Panorama. Now, the observant amongst you will have realised that these are in fact not the pictures that I took in the demonstration. What happened there was that the demonstration was shot around about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the light really was very flat, and so the resultant panorama was also slightly flat. I went back at dawn the next morning and shot these pictures, and I did this with a 2 times extender as well, taking my 200mm reach up to 400mm. So these are different pictures, but they make for a much more effective panorama, in my view. Now, this takes a little bit of time, so we'll just skip it until we get there. Okay, so you can see it's now completed the panorama. So we do OK from there, and you can see up here it says loading 1 document, so we'll wait for it to load that. Now, these are full-size TIFF files, so this is a very large document indeed, so I'll just pause it until we've finished that. Okay, so now it's rendering the panorama. Okay, and that's finished rendering. So that process took about 2 minutes, and this is a fairly new Mac. So this is pretty intensive, but this is a horrifically big file. So let's have a look and see what we need, what we can observe from here. So first off is that the camera was ever so slightly off level, and you can see that for the blank pixels up here and the blank pixels down there. And I finished the panorama slightly to the left of where I started it from, so I was doing this by eye. So it's no great surprise. So we're going to need to stitch this, but we're going to crop it, but we'd need to do that anyway. So I'm going to initially crop it here. So we'll bring this into there, and this in to there. And I think I'd be inclined to bring this, partly because of the shadow, but partly because of the mountain in the middle. Bring this in there and bring this in here. Okay, so that's my new. So you'll notice that the plateau is slightly tilting. However, that is natural. If you look at the line of the snow here, that is dead level. Okay, so we can now take that into the photo persona. So we'll apply this, and we're now in the photo persona, and we just want to tidy this file up a little bit. And I'll just add a couple of bits here. So bring our black level in a bit, our white level a tiny little touch. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to add a curves layer and lift this shadow here and bring a little bit more definition into those mountains. So there's curves gone here. There are my curves. Let's get this off to one side so we can see what we're doing. So let's see. Okay, getting a little bit more into the mountain there. And if I just lift this a little, and there we go. We'll put in an HSL layer instead. Okay, and we're just, let's see, we can saturate this more or less. So just a touch more. And a little luminosity shift. And I think we want the oranges here. We'll bring this in. So the reds there. So now we're really focusing on the foreground. And take this, oops, and take that down to the blue, and I think that's more or less where we want to be. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here, and let's get back to the studio. Okay guys, that's pretty much it for this week. I hope this has been useful. A couple of points that probably deserve mentioning. Some people advise processing the individual frames before you do the stitching. And there's one very good reason for that is that when you have done the stitching and you've got a file that's sort of 4 or 5 gigabytes, it's a lot slower to edit, and you know, so there is some sense in doing it that way. However, I actually prefer to do the processing after I've done the stitching, and the reason that I prefer that is because once you've started editing, even if you propagate those identical changes through the whole set of pictures, you can sometimes come up with very subtle gradations in the sky, for example, where one frame is ever so slightly different from the next frame. The sky is actually by far the worst offender for this, and because the process effectively takes so long, I prefer to have time to think about the edit and to think about what I'm doing with regards to the entire picture. The other point, of course, is that just editing a single frame out of a landscape like this is that the first frame and the last frame are pretty radically different. There's a different distribution of light, so it's not always the best thing. However, the other thing that's probably worth mentioning here is that what I do habitually is to shoot my panorama much bigger than I think it will ultimately be, and then I will crop it down to probably 3:1 ratio. Sometimes that means getting within the stops, the natural stops that I talked about. Sometimes it doesn't, but generally I'll crop to around 3:1 because that works really well in a frame. Works very well on social media as well, so there's that. Okay, I hope it's been useful, hope it's been entertaining. I'll remember that 4-wheel drive journey for as long as I live, probably. But if you've enjoyed the video, Do put a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hopefully we'll see you next week for another video. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye now.